Welcome to the Misquamicut Beach Podcast, a podcast spotlighting the businesses, newsmakers, events, and memories of Rhode Island's historic Misquamicut Beach.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a stacked episode of the Misquamicut Beach Podcast. My name is Ben Barber. I am your host and one of the producers of the show, back with you as always. The calendar has turned to October, and you know what that means in Misquamicut. It means that it is time for the Guy Fawkes Bonfire. This is the 21st anniversary of the Guy Fawkes Bonfire night, and it is going to be a big one, held on Saturday, October 13th at 7 p.m. This is a free event brought to you by the Misquamicut Business Association. And you can get special reserve seating at eventbrite.com. You can also check out everything by www.guyfawkesusa.com. It's at the Andrea on Atlantic Avenue in Misquamicut. And this year's show is brought to you by South County Tourism Council, Foxwoods Resort Casino. Those are our two big sponsors. We want to thank them very, very much. And it's also sponsored in part by the Pleasant View Inn, Stanton Realty, Seaside Pharmacy, and Bouvier Insurance. No big event like this happens without its sponsors, so we want to send out a huge thank you to all of those sponsors that make something like this happen. Today's show is going to be awesome. We're talking about Guy Fawkes. We're talking to three of the four people that make this happen every year and have been making it happen for the 21 years. Caswell Cook, obviously the director of the show, the executive director of the Misquamicut Business Association, one of the producers of the show. We hear from him enough. So we're going to hear from the other three members of this group who have been the core group of Guy Fawkes. First, we're going to hear from Ryan Zemanek. Mr. Zemanek is an English teacher at Westerly Public Schools. He is one of the writers of the Guy Fawkes Night every year, as well as one of the actors. And then, so I have a great conversation with him first. And then I tried to track down Chris DiPaola. You know him, you love him. He's one of the busiest men I've ever met. He is the owner of WBLQ, 1230 AM. He's the owner of 96.7 The Buzz, and the owner of 95.1 Kent County's classic rock station. All of that being said, the easiest way to get a hold of Chris for an interview was for me to go on the air live on WBLQ and kind of take over for a minute and interview him. So I went down there and I interrupted Ken Collins and Frank on the morning show, and I sort of took it over and interviewed Chris. And then Matt Hopkins, the fourth Beatle, Caswell will get a kick out of that, of this group for Guy Fawkes. He came on the show as well, so he called in to WBLQ. So I kind of took over the radio station. Chris was nice enough to send me the audio for that, so we're kind of double dipping on that. Maybe you heard it on WBLQ. You should definitely check them out. If not, then it's new to you. So Chris talked a lot about Guy Fawkes and his role as the king in the show, and a lot of other fun stuff. So I'm very excited to bring both of these things to you. If you're not familiar with Guy Fawkes, then let me tell you a little bit about it. This is going to be a comedic reenactment of the 1605 trial and execution for treason of Guy Fawkes, who in 1605 attempted to blow up the king and Parliament, featuring a Monty Python-esque performance by the Misquamicut Players and the music of King Crimson's Jesters, Westerly Morrismen, and Kentish Guards, directed by Caswell Cook. Once again, it's going to be a fantastic show. Saturday, October 13th, 7 p.m. at the Andrea. It's a free show. If you want special reserve seating, go to eventbrite.com or check out guyfawkesusa.com. Without further ado, here is Ryan Zemanek. Mr. Zemanek, how are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Sorry, would you prefer if I call you Ryan?
Ryan is fine for this, yeah.
So, sorry about that. Obviously,
okay.
So you are a teacher.
I am, yes.
At Westerly Public Schools.
Yes.
You know, obviously, we're talking today because of your acting in the Guy Fawkes Bonfires, and more specifically, this 21st anniversary of the Guy Fawkes Bonfire, and I've heard that you have been there since the very beginning. Is that true?
That is true. I was there at the first Guy Fawkes Bonfire, way back when Caswell and I were young men just out of college.
And have you? So you've been in all? So you've been in the previous 20 then.
I have.
And do you have the same role every time?
For the last 15 or so, yeah, I play the Archbishop of Canterbury. But in the first couple, we hadn't really established all of the roles, so I played several different things, and it was so long ago. Don't ask me to remember exactly what the names were. I couldn't possibly.
So how did this all come about to begin with?
Well, Caswell and I and a bunch of his friends have certainly had a long-standing love of British humor, especially Monty Python. And Kaz was coming back from, I think it was a year in England, doing some college work across the pond. And he experienced Guy Fawkes and wanted to do something similar in America, and kind of brought all his friends together and said, hey, we're going to do this. And it turned out to be a moderate success. I think we had 15, 20 people in the audience, but through sheer force of will, we just kept it going, and it is what it is today.
And has it always been at the Andrea?
Yeah, it's always been at the Andrea outside. At first it was in their original outside bar area, and then as it became larger, it slowly migrated over to the parking lot area. Okay.
Well, I'm excited. This will be my first Guy Fawkes. I'll be there filming it.
Well, welcome.
And so thank you very much. How long have you been acting?
Oh, goodness gracious. I've been acting for 40 years now.
Oh, wow.
So I was about 3. Yeah.
So this will not be my first. I have not been to a Guy Fawkes yet, and I'm excited to be there. This will not be the first time that I've seen you act, however.
Oh my! Where else have you seen me act?
So I'm wondering if you remember a student film that you did several years ago called Raise.
I do. I actually still have that in my DVD collection.
With the very talented Dan Dowding and Chaz Ahern.
Absolutely.
From Westerly alumni. So yeah, that was the first time, and obviously I've heard your name, for years since then. But that was my first introduction to Ryan Zemanek's acting talent.
Oh dear.
So what is what would you say is your favorite part about the Guy Fawkes Bonfire night?
Well, I enjoy the tradition of it. I certainly like seeing all my friends. The young men and the players in the show have known each other for decades, and some of us just lead such busy lives that we don't get to see each other often. So it's really nice to kind of come back and see all my friends. Of course, I love the humor of the play, Monty Python, and our own quirky little sense of humor that we inject into the scripts is always a blast. And to be honest, it's just fun to be on stage again.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. Now, did you study theater at all?
I did. I studied theater when I was a young man, actually a child. I worked with people like Arthur Pignataro when I was a very young man, 5, 6, and I did take some classes in college and here and there throughout my entire life. But no, I never majored in it or got a degree in it, but I certainly have a lot of experience with some traveling companies and professional companies here and there.
That's awesome. And what is your so what other, because this show is I'm not sure if you're familiar with the show that you are on at the moment, but we're here just promoting Misquamicut Beach, and Westerly and the tourism, and for the locals around who also love the beach and have a history with the beach and all of that stuff. So obviously, you've been going down to the beach to do this performance for 21 years. What did you grow up having any memories of Misquamicut?
Absolutely. We go to Misquamicut every year. My family and I made a point of it. It's just a wonderful place. Westerly is lucky to have it. It certainly is one of the beating hearts of the community. And it's just a great place for families, for entertainment, period.
I agree. What other events? I don't know if you frequent the other events that happen in Misquamicut around the year besides Guy Fawkes, but other than Guy Fawkes, what would you say? Is there an event that you look forward to or a happening that you look forward to more than any other?
I do enjoy Fall Fest, certainly, and I like Caswell's movies on the beach. Those are always enjoyable, entertaining events.
Yeah, the drive-in is such a nice addition.
It is
to the area. It's really nice to have that, and
gives some depth and breadth to what's available during the summer.
Yeah, and this is our first episode since Fall Fest came and went. Fall Fest this year was just incredible.
Absolutely.
Beautiful weather the whole time, and Atlantic Rhythm section was fantastic. It was really a great time. So tell me a little bit more about your teaching.
Oh, well, I'm an English teacher and have been since I joined Westerly. I generally teach juniors and seniors, and I've got to say that it's a privilege to teach in Westerly. The students are wonderful. The faculty is wonderful. It's a good school. I'm happy to be there.
Awesome. And do you encourage your students to come see you in the play?
Well, sometimes. The play, while family-friendly, can be a little bit raunchy at times. I'm not sure that I'd encourage them to come see their teacher in such a role. But, of course, if they do want an entertaining evening, they're welcome to come down.
That I couldn't say that better myself. Now, is it a different script every year, or
it is? It's based on the traditional. I don't know if you'd call it a script, but the traditional outline that you'd find in reenactments in England, where essentially you have the trial of Guy Fawkes, but every year we write a brand new script that works around that. We try to include some Monty Python and some popular culture references. Sometimes Caswell writes it, sometimes I've written it, sometimes everybody writes it together, sometimes there's some improv. So yes, it's a different script every year.
And how long does it take for this entire event to come together?
Well, it depends. It's usually a mad dash towards the end, but sometimes we've been able to plan it out long in advance. I'd say the average year, it takes us a couple weeks to write the script, and then we'll usually have a sit-down table read with everybody, and then we only have that one rehearsal before the actual night, and then we're on.
And how many people come back every year to do the show, and how many new people do you get on stage?
We always have some new people in the cast, and we certainly welcome them. There's a core group of friends, Caswell, Matt, Chris DiPaola, and I that have been around since the beginning and have known each other since we were little kids. But aside from that, there's a group of another 5 or 6 people that have been in most of them and do come back. But outside of that, everybody's pretty new every year.
Well, that's awesome, and that's kind of the core group that I had heard about, and hopefully Matt and Chris are going to be on this episode as well. I don't know that for certain at the time of this recording, but I've reached out to both of them. Caswell not going to be on the show because I've given him way too much airtime as it is. So is there one, like, if there's one thing or one last, is there like a pitch that you'd like to, like, how do you get people excited for Guy Fawkes?
Well, Guy Fawkes in and of itself is exciting every year. Those of you who have experienced it know that, and this year will be no exception. It's focused on the Beach Boys, so there'll be a lot of music of the Beach Boys this year. For those who've never experienced it, it's a unique experience. There's nothing like it in the area. Come on down and try it out, and you will become a lifelong lover of Guy Fawkes in Misquamicut.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm super excited. I love live theater. I love the beach. I love Monty Python esque things. So I'm excited about that. And I will see you there.
Very good.
Thank you very much for your time.
No problem.
It is 61 degrees, 7:43 in the morning, and I want you to kind of drift back a few hundred years to 1605. That's when Guy Fawkes did his thing, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, it was on November 5th. He was guarding some explosives beneath the House of Lords, and they found him.
Remember the 5th of November. Gunpowder, treason, and plot.
Well, didn't go well for Guy after that.
No.
But Ben Barber's here to talk about the 21st Guy Fawkes event here in Westerly.
That's right, and I hope that you guys this year remember the 13th of October, Saturday the 13th of October at 7 p.m. Chris, Guy Fawkes' 21st anniversary. You've been a part of all 21?
All 21, and the credit actually goes to, Caswell Cook. He was the one who came up with the idea and got it from a guy named Tro Cottrell, and Tro Cottrell was a good friend of Caswell, still is, and he was sitting in front of a fire and a bonfire at his house, and Caswell, the way he explains the story, went up to him and said, "What are you doing?" And Tro said, "Well, I'm celebrating Guy Fawkes Day." And Caswell said, "What's that?" And he said, "Well, the 5th of November, there was this guy who tried to overthrow Parliament, and he was against everything that Parliament stood for, and the what's the word I'm looking for to be family friendly, the dictatorial ways of Parliament, and he wanted to basically blow up everybody, including the king and the royal family, and then that's how it all came to be. And of course, the bonfire was the big attraction. So Caswell said, let's just for fun, they're trying to extend the season down at the Andrea, in the summertime. And there was no Misquamicut Business Association, the very first one. So he said, let's do it. And Caswell will, he disagrees with me on this, but I have a memory. I can remember long-term things. I'm not very good at remembering what happened like 5 minutes ago.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Good. Well, if something happened over here, I forgot about it already. I think we've learned that when I double book guests on the morning show. But when it comes to Guy Fawkes Day, this is where Caswell and I disagree. The very first year was 1998, and it has been, 21 years. The 21st year, that was 20 years ago, so this would be the 21st. But it was on the 5th of December, and I remember getting into a dispute with a guy who used to work in radio around these parts. His name was Jeff Cook, and he's also from the mother country. And he said, "Why are you doing it on December 5th? It should be on November 5th. So the next year after that, it was November 5th for quite some time. And then around 2005, it was decided that it would be in October, because in November, and Caswell writes it into the script, says it's too cold during the town council says it's too cold. That's why we do it in October and not November. So since then, it's been in October.
So the show has a Monty Python-esque feel, right?
There are many references to Monty Python because, being that it is British, but there's a lot of comical, inserts into the performance besides Monty Python. Monty Python plays a big role. And then there's always a theme every year as well.
Now, I know that Caswell and Ryan Zemanek usually write the script. Is that true? Does anybody do you know who's writing the script this year?
Well, they usually write the majority of it, primarily Caswell, and then Ryan would be secondary, and then everybody else sort of puts their own thoughts and ideas into it. There have been a few things that I've said just in passing, and then it ends up on the script, so it's kind of a culmination, but Caswell has kind of spearheaded the script part of it.
All right. And if any WBLQ listeners are confused right now why I'm interviewing Chris, did you explain this?
I did not.
This is a show within a show right now. So we are doing this on WBLQ on the morning show, but then it's also going to be used for the Misquamicut Beach Podcast, which is my show. So I've turned the tables on Chris, and he looks a little uncomfortable.
Well, I'm always uncomfortable. It's just the way I am.
So what's your favorite? I mean, you and I haven't talked that much about Misquamicut. You hosted an event for me this year. You hosted a bingo night at the Pleasant View. And so what are some of your, I mean, you're constantly in Misquamicut for first things. What are some of your favorite stuff that goes down there?
Oh, there's just an endless list of Misquamicut activities. Of course, you get Spring Fest and Fall Fest, and those are big events. All of the businesses, love the Andrea, love Patty's. And, of course, I'm going to say that I love the people who advertise here. People know me a little too well. But at the same time, I enjoy the ocean. I really love the beach. I love the beach. I love the ocean. I always have, even way before I even got into radio.
Way before water.
Way before water was invented. Who invented water, by the way?
Guy Fawkes.
I thought so.
There we go.
1605.
Pretty explosive.
Definitely. So do we have people that are calling in, or?
Well, this was all done sort of last minute.
Yeah, it was very last minute, so no.
So it's been Caswell Cook had sent a group text, which I know everybody here is familiar with, and there have been no responses thus far. But
perfect.
Nina J is always part of this performance as well.
Okay.
And I might even try to multitask and reach out to her, because she is always involved with the musical aspect of it. There's music along with the performance.
I hear that this year is a Beach Boys theme.
The Court of Kokomo.
Okay. Awesome. And what are some other themes that there have been in the past?
Well, there was one year. I mean, almost every year. First of all, have you been to the show?
I have not been to the show before. I'll be there filming this year.
Shame on you. You are unqualified then. You are unqualified because he's never been to the show. Well, I hope you go to the show this year.
That was a really explosive revelation.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, Ben. Hopefully,
am I going to be on trial from now on?
Yeah,
you're going to do Ben Barber Day?
Put you in the bonfire. But no, basically every year there's been a variety of themes. One was Star Trek, and there was another one in 2004. And this is where this all started, in case people were wondering why I'm Rodney Dangerfield as King James I. Well, in 2004, that was the year that Rodney Dangerfield passed away. And Wayne Holmes, who was involved in the production that year, said, Chris would be a good Rodney. Why don't we just have him be Rodney instead of trying to do the British thing? Because up until that point, I was just trying to say, thank you very much. This is my decree, and it wasn't really all that funny.
Can you do a Rodney Dangerfield for me right now?
I don't really feel like doing it right now, Ben. You got to give me a little bit of respect and don't put me on the spot. The last time I was put on the spot, my wife did it to me. And she said, you got very bad taste. And I said, yeah, I married you, didn't I?
You know what?
I guess the answer to that is maybe.
No. Yeah. Absolutely not. That guy was possessed.
I got to be honest, that's a hell of a lot better than your British accent was.
Well, yeah, the British accent was horrible. So then one year, I tried to put Paul Lynde into the show. Hey, Sammy, how you doing? And you know how Paul Lynde is, and I was the center square. But nobody really knew who that was, even though I think he's a really funny guy. So we ended up going back to Rodney again. And then one year, Caswell decided to be creative. I know it's 7:52 and we got to take a break, but I'm going to make it a minute late. So Caswell decided to turn the table, and he said, why don't you be Guy Fawkes? And Jim Fleming, who usually plays Guy Fawkes, why don't you be the King James? And that was when Trump, the apprentice, but way before he was thinking about becoming president. Maybe he was thinking about it, but we didn't know it. So he was Donald Trump, and I as King James I, and I was Guy Fawkes. And the most famous lines that year were, "Fawkes, you're fired." Fire, get it? So. Anyway.
Now you would probably get into a lot of trouble for portraying the king as Donald Trump. People would really take it as a political statement.
Yeah. I'm going to put you on hold because we really do have to go to the break.
Yes, we do. And you can edit this out of your pod. Unless you want to run the commercials, it's up to you.
That's up to Caswell, actually.
Let's take a vote. 7-Eleven! Oh.
Yeah. I say you run him because then I can kiss up to him a little more. This upcoming weather forecast in WBLQ is brought to you by the Westerly Hospital.
Back to the morning show. 61 degrees, 7:55 in the morning, and pretty explosive in here this morning. We're talking about Guy Fawkes. Ben Barber is talking with Chris DiPaola.
Thanks, Frank.
Take it on. Take it on.
So, Chris, we were just talking about Guy Fawkes, and you've been there for 21 years. Going back to you only played Guy Fawkes 1 year, right?
1 year, yes. 1 year.
And do you prefer playing the King?
Well, it actually it wasn't really a preference thing. Oh, do I prefer between Guy Fawkes and the King?
Yeah.
I like being the King better. I never thought how much I would really love playing the Rodney Dangerfield character. It was just something that Wayne Holmes thought of in 2004. But then the whole idea of Rodney Dangerfield being a king was pretty neat. And I just said, that's a neat idea, having Rodney being Rodney, and he does his little one-liners, and I just thought, wow, what a neat idea that you go from being a British King James I and, just having that character. And even when you're not on stage, just keeping that character, because not a lot of times, but every time, Caswell has us dress in costume prior to the show, and we go around and we greet the people and everything, and I'm just Rodney the whole time. It's like, Crazy Chris takes a back seat, and I become Rodney Dangerfield. And we have a lot of other great characters, too. I mean, Matt Hopkins every year is portraying he's done a lot of the Monty Python stuff, but last year he played a character called Dr. Poon. And Caswell will take references from, Chevy Chase movies and, things like that. And other movies, you know what I mean? It's not just Monty Python. It's,
right.
It's not just Rodney. There's all these little, and then he'll take current events, and there might be a Trump joke. It's all good fun.
How much improvisation is there in the show, or is there any? Are you guys free to ad lib during the show? Like, are you free to make a one-liner as Rodney if you see fit? If something funny pops into your head,
well,
are you allowed to take a swing and a miss? Or hit it out of the park.
It's pretty funny because almost before every show, Caswell usually says, follow the script. But then a lot of us will do the ad-lib thing anyway, and then at the end of the show, we're told how great it was. So it's one of those things I think you've learned in performing, and I'm not a theatrical performer. I'm a radio performer. But if you bend the rules, but don't break them, but if you bend them a little, and you put improv into it that's related, and you're in your character, it can be phenomenal. So even though we're not told we can do that, we do it anyway.
Yeah, if you know what to do and you know when to do it, and you're not taking too many liberties with it, then it can be really great. Especially in a show like Guy Fawkes, where it's sort of camp and fun and Monty Python-esque, as we said, and referential of all of these movies and pop culture and current events. That's really, a great breeding ground for a Rodney Dangerfield one-liner off the top of your head.
Yeah, it's a good breeding ground for also, future actors and actresses. And it also, I should add that Caswell brings in some pretty, some top-notch performers. Denny Lane from Wings and also Moody Blues performed with us on stage 1 year. There's been talk of John Ford Coley doing it, and of course his usual beach band. And his beach band has a rotating group of very talented performers. Some of them who have been very consistent, and some of them who have kind of rotated in over the years. And we may have one of those phone calls right now to join in the conversation. We have a minute before we do news on the radio, but we could take this another 3 minutes.
Okay.
So you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah.
This is Matt Hopkins. This is Matt Hopkins, also known as Dr. Poon last year.
Yeah, well, the reference, the name has no reference to anything other than just the general name, so... please don't read anything into that.
Okay, good. I was going to think that I had to put some money in this jar.
No, not at all.
Well, go ahead anyway. We need money in that jar.
There's a paperclip in it.
Matt, how are you doing?
Yeah. I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm good, thanks. So you are sort of the fourth Beatle as far as the Guy Fawkes 21 years.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of like, I'm either George or Ringo. I can't decide.
I think Chris is Ringo. I think we can all agree that Chris is Ringo.
We were told Matt's John Lennon.
Okay. That's high praise. That's high praise, Matt.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful program. We've been doing it for, this is what, the 21st year, Chris?
21st.
21st year. And it's amazing that the amount of response that it's gotten over the years, built up from a small little lark that we decided to do 21 years ago on the patio of the Andrea, and now it's turned into an event that actually is looked forward to by hundreds of people. So that's something that we should be very proud of, and I think something that everybody else is excited to see every year. And it's a wonderful event, a lot of fun. I think it's probably as fun for the players, if not more fun for the players than it is for the people viewing. But
what's something about Guy Fawkes that you look forward to doing every year that's kept you coming back for 21 years?
Well, quite honestly, for me, it's the friendships. It's the friendships, and myself, Chris, Caswell, and Ryan, and all of the other wonderful people that make it happen, that we've met and become friends with along the way. But the core few people that started it all out, with Caswell as being the sort of spearhead to it all. We all went to school together, and it brings back a lot of those good feelings of camaraderie, like basically the four amigos that developed in high school. Doing funny skits, doing little radio bits in Chris's little radio station in the camper behind his parents'
the pirate
house
station.
And,
yes, the unlicensed station.
I wish you guys could see the smile that just came on Chris's face when you said that.
Yeah. So for me, it's about the camaraderie that is remembered once a year. It's for me less about the celebrating the 5th of November on a completely different day, and the Britishness of it, and the subversion, and the history of that. It's more about the camaraderie that I have with my friends and the friends that we've met along the way.
That's so awesome, Matt. Thank you very much. I can't wait to meet you on October 13th, 7 p.m. at the Andrea for Guy Fawkes, the 21st anniversary. I just want to say thank you to Frank and Ken and Chris for letting me come take over your radio station for about 20 minutes. Thank you, Matt, for calling in. Thank you, Chris, for the great interview. And Caswell would probably kill me if I didn't mention the wonderful sponsors, South County Tourism Council and Foxwoods, who are helping put Guy Fawkes on this year, and everybody else. So thank you guys very much.
So, Ben, you're
very welcome.
We've got to blow this interview up and, like Guy Fawkes would have wanted to do, and go to the news.
For more information on the events and businesses in Misquamicut Beach, make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and at Misquamicut.org.